Hey guys, Lord Naren White here, the Holy Ghost, the one true God. Back with you with the next video in my series, Great Expectations. Without further ado, we're turning to Great Expectations. Chapter 46. 8 o'clock had struck before I got into the air that was scented, not disagreeably, by the chips and shavings of the longshore boat builders, and mast oar and block makers. All that waterside region of the upper and lower pool below bridge was unknown ground to me, and when I was struck down by the river, I found the spot I wanted was not where I supposed it to be, and was anything but easy to find. It was called Mill Pond Bank, Chinks's Basin, and I had no other guide to Chinks's Basin than the old green copper rope walk. It matters not what stranded ships repairing in dry docks I lost myself among, what old hulls of ships in course of being knocked to pieces, what ooze and slime and other dregs of tide, what yards of shipbuilders and shipbreakers, what rusty anchors blindly biting into the ground, though for years off duty, what mountainous country of accumulated casks and timber, how many rope walks that were not the old green copper. After several times falling short of my destination, and as often overshooting it, I came unexpectedly round a corner upon Mill Pond Bank. It was a fresh kind of place, all circumstances considered, where the wind from the river had room to turn itself round, and there were 2 or 3 trees in it, and there was the stump of a ruined windmill, and there was the old green copper rope walk, whose long and narrow vista I could trace in the moonlight, along a series of wooden frames set in the ground that looked like a superannuated hay-making rakes which had grown old and lost most of their teeth. Selecting from the few queer houses upon Mill Pond Bank, a house with a wooden front and 3 stories of bow window, not bay window, which is another thing, I looked at the plate upon the door and read there, Mrs. Wimple, that being the name I wanted. I knocked, and an elderly woman of a pleasant and thriving appearance responded. She was immediately deposed, however, by Herbert, who silently led me into the parlor and shut the door. It was an odd sensation to me to see his very familiar face, established quite at home in that very unfamiliar room and region, and I found myself looking at him much as I looked at the corner cupboard with the glass and china, the shells upon the chimney-piece, and the colored engravings on the wall, representing the death of Captain Cook, a ship launch, and His Majesty King George III in a state coachman's wig, leather breeches and top boots on the terrace at Windsor. "All is well, Hand," said Herbert, "and he is quite satisfied, though eager to see you. My dear girl is with her father, and if you'll wait till she comes down, I'll make you known to her, and then we'll go upstairs. That's her father." I had become aware of an wrong voice. I had become aware of an alarming growling overhead, and had probably expressed the fact in my countenance. "I am afraid he is a sad old rascal," said Herbert, smiling, "but I have never seen him. Don't you smell rum? He is always at it." "At rum?" said I. "Yes," returned Herbert, "and you may suppose how mild it makes his gout. He persists, too, in keeping all the provisions upstairs in his room, and serving them out. He keeps them on shelves over his head, and will weigh them all. His room must be like a chandler's shop." While he thus spoke, the growling noise became a prolonged roar, and then died away. "What else can be the consequence," said Herbert, in explanation, "if he will cut the cheese? A man with the gout in his right hand, and everywhere else, can't expect to get through a double Gloucester without hurting himself." He seemed to have hurt himself very much, for he gave another furious roar. To have Provis for an upper lodger is quite a godsend to Mrs. Wimple, said Herbert, for of course people in general won't stand that noise. A curious place, Handel, isn't it? It was a curious place indeed, but remarkably well kept and clean. Mrs. Wimple, said Herbert, when I told him so, is the best of housewives, and I really do not know what my Clara would do without her motherly help. For Clara has no mother of her own, Handel, and no relation in the world, but old Gruffingrim. Surely that's not his name, Herbert. No, no, said Herbert. That's my name for him. His name is Mr. Barley. But what a blessing it is for the son of my father and mother to love a girl who has no relations, and who can never bother herself or anybody else about her family. Herbert had told me on former occasions, and now reminded me that he first knew Miss Clara Barley when she was completing her education at an establishment at Hammersmith, and that on being recalled home to nurse her father, he and she had confided their affection to the motherly Mrs. Wimple, by whom it had been fostered and regulated with equal kindness and discretion ever since. It was understood that nothing of a tender nature could possibly be confided to old Barley, by reason of his being totally unequal to the consideration of any subject more psychological than gout, rum, and purser's stores. As we were thus conversing in a low tone while old Barley's sustained growl vibrated in the beam that crossed the ceiling, the room door opened, and a very pretty, slight, dark-eyed girl of 20 or so came in with a basket in her hand, whom Herbert tenderly relieved of the basket, and presented blushing as Clara. She really was a most charming girl, and might have passed for a captive fairy, whom that truculent ogre, old Barley, had pressed into his service. Look here, said Herbert, showing me the basket, with a compassionate and tender smile, after we had talked a little. Here's poor Clara's supper, served out every night. Here's her allowance of bread, and here's her slice of cheese, and here's her rum, which I drink. This is Mr. Barley's breakfast for tomorrow, served out to be cooked. No 2 mutton chops, 3 potatoes, some split peas, little flour, 2 ounces of butter, a pinch of salt, and all this black pepper. It's stewed up together and taken hot, and it's a nice thing for the gout, I should think. There was something so natural and winning in Clara's resigned way of looking at these stores in detail, as Herbert pointed them out, and something so confiding, loving, and innocent, in her modest manner of yielding herself to Herbert's embracing arm, and something so gentle in her, so much needing protection on Mill Pond Bank, by Chinks's Basin, and the old green copper rope walk with old Barley growing in the beam, that I would not have undone the engagement between her and Herbert, for all the money in the pocket-book I had never opened. I was looking at her with pleasure and admiration, when suddenly the growl swelled into a roar again, and a frightful bumping noise was heard above, as if a giant with a wooden leg were trying to bore it through the ceilings to come to us. Upon this Clara said to Herbert, Papa wants me, darling, and ran away. There's an unconscionable old shark for you, said Herbert. What do you suppose he wants now, Handel? I don't know, said I. Something to drink? That's it, cried Herbert, as if I had already made a guess of extraordinary merit. He keeps his grog ready mixed in a little tub on the table. Wait a moment, and you'll hear Clara lift him up to take some. There he goes. Another roar with a prolonged shake at the end. Now, said Herbert, as it was succeeded by silence. He's drinking. Now, said Herbert, as the grouse resounded in the beam once more. "He's down again on his back." Clara returned soon afterwards, and Herbert accompanied me upstairs to see our charge. As we passed Mr. Barley's door, he was heard hoarsely muttering within, in a strain that rose and fell like wind, the following refrain, in which I substitute good wishes for something the reverse. "Ahoy! Bless your eyes! Here's old Bill Barley! Here's old Bill Barley! Bless your eyes! Here's old Bill Barley on the flat of his back! By the Lord! Lying on the flat of his back, like a drifting old dead flounder. Here's your old Bill Barley! Bless your eyes! Ahoy! Bless you!" In this strain of consolation, Herbert informed me the invisible Barley would commune with himself by the day and night together, often while it was light, having at the same time one eye and a telescope, which was fitted on his bed for the convenience of sweeping the river. We'll go ahead and stop there for this week. As usual, I want to say thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. Please like, comment, and subscribe, as it greatly helps the channel. Light be with you all. Take care, and thanks again.